Your day to join me. My name is Jackie Milani. I'll be hosting today's webinar. So I really love this time of year because the world of athletics and physical education is buzzing, and I get to speak to a lot of you, a lot of coaches and teachers around this time, and I sort of start to develop a collective understanding of the things you're doing as well as the struggles you may have. And then I'm then able to use these insights to better support, create better resources to the rest of the platform community. So today's session is the first of our back to school webinar series that I have planned. So if you take something away from today's webinar, then be sure to check out the future webinars that I have planned. So if you haven't met me, I work on the customer success team. I'm constantly thinking of ways to help our customers get more out of platform. I'm also one of the performance coaches, so you will see me in our demonstration videos within the program. And I joined Platform in the fall of 2018. So for an agenda today, we'll start with some basic steps that you can take to prepare your account for a new school year. We'll then dive into what's new this year. So if you took some time off this summer or haven't logged into the site in quite some time, we'll look at what new programs are available as well as new features. We'll also discuss some program considerations and best practices for returning to a post-COVID school year. And we'll also review some virtual options. It sounds like some people or most people are having to offer some type of virtual option. So we still have a pretty expansive library there. And then we'll wrap up with a sneak peek of what we're working on next in platform. So to get things started, we want to start fresh in our account and turn it over from last year. So to show you some tips for account cleanup, I'm actually going to move into the site for this portion here. So I'll try to get my screen as large as I can. All right, so we'll end that poll. I apologize if that poll was in your way. Cool. Okay, there we go. Poll is over. All right, so we'll start with users. So we want to start out with cleaning up a roster. So just some tips and tricks for how to do that. As most of you hopefully know, when you have a certain amount of allotted spots in platform, those spots are fluid. So what that means is when you remove a student, that spot then becomes available for another student to join. So oftentimes teachers might have students hanging out in here that have graduated or never activated or something like that, and they don't even realize it, and they're occupying a spot. So to make sure your roster is relevant and active and up to date, a couple tips to do that. So for starters, on the users page, you can use these filters at the top to sort by group and by grad year. So if you have an entire group that you know you need to remove, you can do so that way. I find grad year to be really helpful. So let's say, for instance, I am going to get rid of the seniors who moved on last year and no longer working out with us. I can simply use this check all option at the top and check all the students that had entered a 2021 grad year and remove them all in one fell swoop. So to do that, I just click delete. It's going to give me a list of names to confirm that is who I want to delete, and I would click delete here. I'll also point out we have some historical grad years here in here as well. So you may have students hanging out in here that graduated in previous years, depending on how long you've been using platform for. So I would kind of click through the historical grad years, make sure you don't have any historical users hanging out in here that really don't need access to platform any longer. And then another tip I like to show folks is the status. So if you were to click on this status column, it's actually going to sort the students by last login. So the most recent login is going to appear at the top. And then if you were to click it one more time, you'll now see the unactivated or the ones who have logged in long time ago will show up at the top. So I always like to point this out. Oftentimes folks have unactivated students in here and don't even realize it. So maybe go through that list of unactivated students or students who haven't logged in a year or so and determine, hey, do they still need access, and delete them if they no longer need access. Couple things to keep in mind about removing students. When you do remove a student, it removes all their data, their log history, everything attached to them. So just be really intentional and careful when doing so. And then another thing to keep in mind is if you share a platform account with other coaches, teachers who may use platform for other purposes, just be mindful of that. So for example, I may no longer have Sarah in my PE class, but perhaps she's working with a field hockey coach and training with platform with her field hockey team. I don't want to delete her because it's possible that she is working with athletics. So just keeping that in mind when you share a platform account with other departments and staff members, you're also sharing students and athletes if they only have one account. All right, so those are some tips for getting our roster in good shape. The next page I want to explore is groups. So we'll want to remove our old groups and create new groups. I always like to point out when you remove a group from platform, it does not delete the students in that group. It simply ungroups them. So the only way to truly delete student accounts is, as I just showed you on the users page, but groups is just an organization tool. So if I no longer teach this 4th hour PE class, maybe that was from last year, I can remove that class by clicking this 3-dot icon, deleting that group. But again, it does not remove these students from platform, it simply ungroups them. So I recommend deleting old groups and then going ahead and adding your new groups for the new school year. It's also possible that you're going to reuse groups. So oftentimes like a sports team, if I had a football group, or it looks like I have a soccer group here, I might just click this add/remove members option, remove the girls that are no longer on this team, and maybe add in the new ones that are joining the team. So those are some tips for cleaning up your groups. And I do have a question. How do you remove one individual from a group without deleting them from the program? I still want to keep the group. Okay, so I think I just showed that probably after you typed that. So you can click into the group where you want to make a change and click on this button in here that says add/remove students. If I want to remove Andrea Cherry from this group, I can click the minus sign and then click save. That would remove her from the group, but not from platform. She still has her platform account. She's just not in my 6th-hour group any longer. Hopefully that answered your question. And I should have said at the beginning, feel free to ask questions along the way. I am a one-woman show today, so I'll try to get to them as best I can. Otherwise, I'll leave time at the end to get to them as well. So next is program assignments. So we'll want to head on over to our program library, which is where we'll be able to see which programs are currently assigned. So I typically recommend unassigning all programs at the start of the school year, just so you can start with a blank slate. I understand it's sort of a blind spot in platform, being able to see which programs are assigned and to who. So for that reason, I recommend sort of scanning the top of these program cards and looking for this assigned label here. What you can then do is click manage. And the way to unassign a program is the same way you would assign it. You're going to want to toggle over from the manage screen to group access. And you'll see which which groups of yours are currently assigned to this program. And you'll remove them by clicking on that minus sign there. And make sure you hit update and just wait for that green flag confirming the change was saved. I always like to point out, you only have the ability to unassign programs for groups which you are an admin on. So as you can see here, as I'm managing the Intro to Yoga program, these other groups are also assigned to yoga, but those are not my groups. It's another staff members. I'm not an admin on those groups, so I can't make changes. So just make sure other staff members will have to go in and manage their own group assignments through their accounts. So when you're cleaning up your program assignments, you're really just cleaning up programs that are assigned to groups that you manage and run. All right, so again, I would recommend just going through unassigning all the programs so that you can start fresh and then go back and reassign the programs to your new groups heading into the school year. I'll touch on schedules briefly. Schedules is another way to assign programs. We haven't seen them used as much as the program group assignment method, but I will review how schedules, you can clean them up. So here on my schedules page, it looks like I, throughout the course of the year, had 3 schedules running. Any expired schedule has its end date has passed. So you'll obviously want to remove those. To do that, it's the 3-dot hidden menu icon you see here, and you're clicking delete. I might want to remove this one as well. I probably removed a group that it was attached to. That's why it says missing audience. I'll go ahead and remove that one as well by clicking delete and confirming its deletion. So once you've gone through programs and schedules, that should unassign everything you have out there. So once your account is cleaned up, it'll be ready for new students to register. So I just wanted to touch on some best practices for getting new groups of students registered. So number one is where to find that join code. Most of us are using the join code sign up method. So just a reminder of where that lives and how to use the join code. So if you toggle over to your users page and click add students, you can always come here to find out what your join code is. So just click on the use join code option. Mine displays right here. If you are the admin on the account, meaning you're the one who created the initial school account, you would see a red change button right here, and you can click it and update your join code at any time. So sometimes I see, a mascot and then the year here. You can always change it, update it to 2021, whatever you want it to be. A lot of schools will go in and update it every year. The next sign up best practice I wanted to point out is that we now have single sign-on. So I'm going to get into this more in depth when we talk about the new features, but I'll just show you quickly what it looks like. So the sign-in page has changed a little bit. We now have these options down here, one of them being a Google sign-on option. So basically, if you're an Apple or Google school, meaning your students have Apple or Google accounts already, they can register and log in with those credentials. So it's really great. It keeps you from having to having to create a new platform account. They can just use their existing Google or Apple account, and it avoids a lot of forgotten password issues and things like that. So just wanted to point that out. They'll still register with the join code. Only difference is on the screen where it's asking them to plug in a new username and password, they're instead just clicking on their Google account. So it should streamline things a little bit. Lastly, or another tip I should say, is we do have a nice little email template curated to help you introduce platform to a new group of students. So where to find that is over here in the blue help and tips tab. So if you haven't used this little tool, I'd recommend it. What this is basically our help center, which is also accessible down here. But the benefit of this tab is it lives in the site. So you don't have to leave the page to look at tutorials. And it also recognizes what page you're on and populates relevant help articles related to what it is you're likely trying to do in platform. So for instance, when I'm on the users page, it's populated a bunch of articles related to join code and student registration. This second one here is one I wanted to highlight. What this is basically an email template that you can use. I recommend just copying and pasting it into an email. And it includes this how to get started in platform video. We find that a lot of students are receptive to learning through video. So this really just walks them through sign up, where to log their workouts, where to log their test results, and kind of the need to know things from a student perspective. So again, that's an email template that you can use to help introduce platform to a new group of students who are going to be using it. And then lastly, just one more tip is for new student registration. I recommend just getting them to register when they're in the room with you. So whether that's day 1 of class or day 2 of class, I recommend throwing that join code up on the whiteboard and having them do it in front of you. That way they're all doing it together. They're joining their groups. You can then go back into groups and verify that the rosters are correct and everyone joined the group that they should join. So that is it for tips for getting new students registered. I'll pause for a moment before we head over or start reviewing new programs. Awesome. So next, I'm going to review new programs and new features that we've released over the last 6 months or so. So You may have seen some of these if you were using Platform at the end of last school year or over the summer, but hopefully you learned something new about them today. So as far as programs go, over the years, we've recognized that every student trajectory does not look the same. So we've made a concerted effort to offer more of a variety of fitness options. And you can clearly see that in some of our latest program releases. So I'm going to provide a high level overview of some of our newer programs. So first and foremost, you'll notice we've installed these new tabs along the top to help you navigate between different program levels. So we've got beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So I'll start on the beginner tab and show you some of our new introductory programs. So our latest program is down here, this Intro to Mindfulness. So we had many requests for a program like this last year. So we actually went and sought out a local professional who is already teaching this type of course to middle and high school students. Her name is Megan Layton, and she helped us build a curriculum for the Platform audience. So this program includes 15 total lessons. Each lesson focuses on a different mindfulness topic. So if you click preview, you can see the actual program and you can sort of browse the various sections and different topics included. So for example, in section 3, we are covering mindfulness of communication, mindfulness and technology, heartfulness for others. The next program I wanted to bring to your attention is Applied Nutrition. So this is the second part of our nutrition series, where we actually address the topic of weight and overall wellness. So we do always recommend starting with the Intro to Nutrition option on the beginner tab, just so students are equipped with the knowledge they need prior to learning about the parallels between weight and overall health, which they'll find in Applied Nutrition. So same format as the Intro to Nutrition program. This is what we call a cognitive program, not a physical program. So it includes a combination of text and video content. That's how they absorb the information. And it does have optional kind of chapter questions that you can use to assess that they absorbed the knowledge in that chapter. Another one of our newer programs that lives on this intermediate tab is Dance Fitness. So that can be found down here. We released this last spring. This was a fun way to get students moving, especially if you didn't have equipment available to you. We placed it in the intermediate category because it is no joke. You are actually moving the entire time and are bound to break a sweat. So this is a great option for students who really aren't interested in that weight training trajectory, but are interested in moving their bodies and breaking a sweat. So I'll also point out that this program, if I click preview, it has more of a follow along approach. So it's just so easy to use rather than a lot of our programs are sort of broken up and that's for logging purposes. But this program really, it has an intro and then it has the full, if I were to click play, you'll see this is a full 30-minute video that they would follow along with. So it's really plug and play. Couple other new programs just to put on your radar is Yoga Flows, also lives in intermediate. So this is the third part of our yoga series. In parts 1 and 2, we taught the main yoga positions. And then in part 2, we teach them the concept of breath to movement. So now we're putting it all together through actual yoga flows, and that can be found right here. We also have an entire new mobility offering. So you'll find Intro to Flexibility on this beginner page. This really trains students to hold different stretch positions. On the intermediate tab, mobility takes it a step further and shows them how to incorporate foam rolling and lacrosse balls for some myofascial release. These can both be great complements to any other training program. I often see these programs used as a form of recovery. It's a great way to incorporate some important mobility and stretching habits while not overtraining your student athletes. So I typically see them used in combination with a training program. And then lastly, worth mentioning, if we head on over to the advanced tab, most, if not all of our athletic programs have been updated. So that includes in and off season program options, as well as speed training and conditioning. So what's changed, I have been asked. First of all, we filmed a lot of new and updated demo content. So the videos are just updated. The way we speak to movement is updated. We have more advanced strength cycles included in those in and off season programs. We have new and expanded power and plyometric progressions. And then lastly, we did add some suggested time domains into the workout so that athletes can better manage their time. So I'll show you what that looks like. If we click preview on the 3-day off season, for instance, we have outlined how long to dedicate for each section. So 5 minutes for the warm up, 5 minutes for this core activation section, 30 seconds of slow reps here, 5 minutes on plyo. So hopefully that allows them to kind of move through the training at the pace that it's intended to be moved through. And then one last question I sometimes get on our advanced program is what is the difference between the 2, 3, and 4-day off season? So the answer is there really is no difference. It's actually the same program with the same goals, the same movements. The difference is more logistical. So the question we ask is, how many days a week are you able to dedicate to training or weightlifting? So if it's 4 days, you would follow the 4-day program. If it's 3, 3. If it's 2, you'd follow 2-day. So you'll notice that the 2-day, we've sort of combined core lifts. So each lift you're focusing on 2 core lifts, whereas in the 4-day, you're focusing on 1 per day. So it is ultimately the same program. It's just a matter of how often, the frequency at which you see these students or athletes. All right. As always, if you ever want to learn more about our programs and our offering, I'd encourage you to visit our community through this help tab down here. And then if you come into the community, we have an entire section related to program resources. So here's where you can find more information than you could ever need to better understand our program offering and help you choose which ones are right for your groups of kids. All right, so I'll plug back into our slides here. And then here's a recap of sort of those different program categories I just walked you through. So what's new as far as features go? So the most notable update you'll find this year is that we've improved the entire student experience, starting with registration, and then all the way through the student workout log. So we've minimized the number of steps required for a student to register. So it's just downright easier to sign up for platform. And as I mentioned, if you happen to be a Google or Apple school, or your students have Google or Apple accounts, we now have that single sign-on option. So this means your students, again, can just use their credentials for those accounts that they already have created to access platform. We're hoping this avoids the hurdles of students, entering typos in their usernames or forgetting their passwords, resetting them and whatnot. So we think this will streamline things a lot. To show you these improvements, I'm again going to move into the site and actually show you what it looks like so you can get a feel for the student experience. So up here, I actually have my student account. So let's move over here. So this is what the login screen now looks like. However, if it's the student's first time, they're going to click register. This is looking a little funky to me. I'm going to refresh it. I think I went back and forth too many times. All right, so when we click register, there we go. I'm going to plug in my join code for my school, verify that I'm not a robot, and submit. And then this is where I would type in an email and password, but in this instance, I'm going to click register with Google. So at this point, your student would either plug in their Gmail or their Apple account, or select it if it's already there. Perhaps they've already used single sign-on with this email. And I already have an account, so it's not letting me register, but then it would walk them through the registration process. For my example, I already have an account. So rather than being on register, I'm going to go to sign in and I'm going to click continue with Google. I'm going to then select my email, my Google account, and it'll log me right in. So super smooth. avoids that having to enter a password every time. All right, and then beyond registration, we've also improved the student workout experience. So to highlight these updates, I'm actually going to log a full workout as a student as quickly as I can, just to show you all the new features here. So as a student, you'll notice, and you can tell I'm in a student account because my tabs over here are different. So rather than an activity tab and a programs tab, as a student, I have my workout tab. So this is where I would go to see my assigned workouts. And I'm actually going to click into a 3-day off-season program and start to log a workout in there. So I'm going to click on this back squat day. And when I'm ready to begin my workout, I'm going to click start workout. So the first notable update is this timer. Again, you probably saw this at the end of last year, but this was a new feature. And then again, with the added suggested time domains, I would recommend pointing those out to your students. That should help them manage their session and their time throughout the session with this timer here at the top. The next big feature, and this was highly requested, is something that we call loggable weights, or a weight log. So a lot of teachers and coaches especially were asking for the ability for students to record their weights, and then for the teacher or the coach's ability to then go in and see those weights. So here I've come across a back squat. It has my prescribed reps or excuse me, sets and weight based on my max back squat. But you'll notice, and this is actually a superset. So let's say, for instance, I complete this superset, but I really struggled on the weight that was prescribed to me. I can actually click back into that exercise and click on this little note feature here, which is where it has stored my weight log. So it logged what I just said I did, which was those 5 sets at these various weights. But let's say, for instance, I really struggled at the end with those sets. I can actually update the weight. So let's say I kept it at 100, failed last set, and then maybe I actually dropped down because I was really struggling. I can hit save, and that weight log is now available for my coach or my teacher to see. All right. And let's say I continue making my way through this workout. I logged the entire thing. That was a giant superset. And I'm going to click done on the last section here. As a student, I get my timestamp. I spent 2 minutes in there. I did all 11 exercises and my attendance was logged. So I can click OK here. And this brings me to another new feature, and that is the ability to reset a single workout. So previously, a student would go in, log a workout, and they couldn't touch it again. They couldn't redo it. They couldn't go back in and see it. So we've updated that. I can now click into this back squat workout, which was crossed out because I did log the whole thing, and I can reset it. So if I reset it, it's going to no longer be crossed out on my workout page, and I can actually go back in and relog it. So this is useful for, especially at the start of the school year, if you have students coming in and incorrectly logging a workout or clicking through it, not realizing that you're timing them and that sort of thing. And then you ask them to actually go back and do it again, they can go back, they can reset it and log it appropriately. So that is a new feature as well that was highly requested. And then very quickly, I just want to show you what the activity looks like from your view, the student log that I just recorded. So now I'm going to pop back into my staff account. And if I go to the activity tab, I can now see the session that I just recorded. That's the back squat up here at the top where I spent 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So just to give a quick lay of the land here in activity, hopefully this is something you discovered last year in platform as well. But you can view activity data by day, week, and by month. And then to get more details, you can click see all here. Here I can see all the sessions that were logged. And in particular, if I wanted to see those notes I logged, I can click into Jackie's student's actual section. So if I click in here, I can see that she made her way through all the movements and she updated these weights here and indicated that she failed the last one and completed all 5 at a lesser weight. So as a teacher, I can actually go in and see that note log, which is really nice. All right, so that is it for the features that the new features I wanted to highlight. So next I'm going to dive into some best practices when it comes to programming this year. And thanks for bearing with me as I jump around this presentation. All right, so when you're going through the program selection process or crafting a syllabus, we are just reminding folks to factor in the pandemic and how that may have affected your students and their fitness activity this past year. So typically when we head into a school year, we expect that students may have taken a short hiatus from training or physical activity during their summer break. But this year, we really have to consider the possibility that due to the remote nature of last year, students may be completely untrained. So to accommodate this, we recommend scheduling in a transitional or an assessment phase into your training plan or your curriculum. And there's two reasons for this. So number one, it gives students a chance to ease back into their training. So starting them out maybe a little more introductory than you normally would. And number two, it allows you to assess where they're at in their training. So emotionally and physically. Perhaps some students did remain consistent in their training and perhaps others didn't. So then this assessment phase that you've kind of scheduled in allows you to place them on a training path that is appropriate to the individual. So what does this look like? Here are some examples. So the first option on the top here shows an appropriate progression for an advanced student or athlete. So we have a program called Athlete On-Ramp, which is a 5-week program dedicated to reacquainting students with proper movement. We then slowly reintroduce load and intensity back into their training and help them arrive at new baseline maxes. So we really recommend dedicating these 5 weeks up front in their training to ramp them back up and also give you a chance to watch them move. And then what does this look like for your more novice group? Again, this is just one example. It doesn't have to look like this. In this example, I'm starting students out on Intro to Fitness. This is our most foundational fitness program. We suggest using a program like this as sort of your buy-in before progressing them into another program. So I had a customer recently refer to this as the learner's permit. And I love that analogy. So basically the learner's permit to unlock the rest of their training. And then based on how the student performs in this program will help you determine which program to progress them into afterwards. This option happens to be a 6-week program. So just a rule of thumb is to start out a little more introductory than you normally would and kind of build in that assessment time, a program that is appropriate and also not dangerous for that student or athlete, that gives you kind of that time to see where they're at and meet them where they're at. So it's totally possible that you have an athlete start out in an Athlete On-Ramp, and then you actually need to revert back to an intro to weight training program. You saw them move, you're not comfortable with them under a loaded barbell. So again, allotting that time for like that assessment phase helps them acclimate to the world of training again, while simultaneously allowing you to figure out their needs. And then I'm going to pivot into some virtual options here. I saw with the poll at the start of this webinar, about half of you definitely have to have some sort of virtual option. I've heard quite a bit of that. So just wanted to point out that we now have quite an expansive program offering that does not require any equipment or really much space. It's great to be aware of these options in the event that you do need to have some sort of virtual offering. But I also know that some of us are returning in person and are limited as far as space and equipment or new rules and regulations and how many group sizes can be in the weight room and whatnot. So these I'm sure will come in handy even if you are fully in person. I'm not going to dive back into the programs page to go through these. I'm assuming actually a lot of you, if you used Platform last year, probably did use these. But I just wanted to get it on paper and kind of break it up by use case. And of course, some of the athletic options may be appropriate in phys ed and vice versa. But just wanted to get these on paper. These are programs that are very appropriate and remote friendly due to their lack of equipment and their follow along nature. And then lastly, okay, I don't have a slide for this. I did mention that I wanted to give a sneak peek of what's to come. So just in the spirit of keeping you updated on new features and releases, I'm going to pop into the community here. And again, if you ever want to visit the community, you can get there through your platform account by clicking on this help tab. That'll take you right here to the community. We have a products update page. So if you click in here, if you have a community account, which I recommend you do, you can actually subscribe to the product updates page. And that way you receive an email anytime something is posted here. We don't post here that frequently, so we're not going to hound you. But anytime there's a significant update, we will share information on it here. So this provides a nice little timeline of kind of when things were released and whatnot. So I did release a teaser at one point. We are working on building a report card. So it's basically a more robust reporting system. So it'll live in the reports tab. But if I click in here, and I'd encourage you all to do the same after this webinar, perhaps we have a teaser just demonstrating it. But basically, our goal here is we do provide a lot of insights with the activity tab, but we wanted to be able to provide you with a report card allowing you to further hone in on the progress and participation of a certain individual. So this is meant to be a really great tool to structure your conversations around when it comes to providing feedback to a student or even to a parent. So yeah, this is, I think, a 5-minute video actually taking you through a prototype of it. So if you are interested in this feature, I would definitely come to our product updates page on your own time and watch this video. We're really excited. We hope that this is out within the next few months. So that is the conclusion of what I planned to cover